Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Maureen, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make Simplicity pattern 8218, and we're going to be making this fur vest here, view D. And this sew along is very unique in that I am showing you how to cut this out. So I'm taking you from beginning to the end. Let's go ahead and get into it. Grab your faux fur, excuse me, grab your lining, and let's get into this. All right, you're gonna need pattern piece number 5, which is the front. Make sure you cut around that curve for the pattern piece. And you're going to cut 2 of your fabric and 2 of your lining. You're also gonna need pattern piece number 6. Cut 1 on the fold of fabric and 1 on the fold of lining. And pattern piece number 7, which is your collar, you're gonna cut 1 on the fold on this side where that bracket is. All right, so let's talk about fabric real quick. So this is faux fur, and the pile on this fabric is fairly low, and that was done purposely because by looking at the pattern envelope, the pile is not very high on this vest. And if you're wondering what I mean by pile, that is literally how thick this piece of fabric is. So you have your faux fur on one side, and you have this, I guess you can call it like a nylon webbing on the underside, or maybe it's a polyester. I got 1.5 yards of this, and so just to explain how it goes when you cut it out, you always want to cut your fur on 1, a single layer, and 2, it's best to actually trace it out and then use not your best scissors to cut all of this out. So not your best scissors and not your worst scissors to cut all of this out. And I'm going to show you how to do that. All right, you guys, this is Editing Raven here, and I want to share a little extra tidbit with you guys. So with my vest, there is a very, very low pile on it, and there's not a lot of directionality, and the nap kind of goes in different directions. Now, in holding up this swatch, you see that I have a piece of fur where all of the fur is going in one direction, kind of like the hair on your head grows in one direction, going downward. So with this in mind, if you have something that has an obvious nap like this, where it is obviously going in one direction, you want to make sure that that direction is downward as you're cutting your pieces. So this would look better if it was going downward, right, on a bodice, versus if it was going this way on a bodice. It almost looks unnatural. You see what I'm saying? So if you're working with something that has directional nap, that nap always needs to go facing downward along the grain line. All right, back to the tutorial. All right, so the best thing I like to do is to take a marker, and you see that I have it on the wrong side. What you are going to do is you are going to trace your entire pattern piece, notches and all, with the marker, and that's how you're going to cut out your fur. So now I'm going to show you how to cut this out, okay? So again, not using your worst scissors, but also not using your best scissors. Go ahead and like make a little snip along the tracing line here. Enough to make a hole. And what you are going to do is you are going to snip. As you are snipping, you want to make sure that you are making very clear, concise snips along the edges that you have traced. If you are cutting frantically or not cutting as accurately, sometimes you can actually end up cutting more fur on the outer pieces, and it can actually start to look like a bad haircut. So you just want to make sure that you are kind of doing like smaller snips, but that they're just very, very accurate with that tracing line. Another thing, I highly recommend that you do not I repeat, do not use an electric scissor with cutting fur. I've done it in the past, and to me, again, it gives that bad haircut look to the fur, and I honestly just prefer using shears. Okay. Ooh, it is a little messy. But now we have our first piece of our vest here. This is the first piece. So now you got to go ahead and cut the opposite side. Notice that I have flipped the pattern piece onto the other side. That way I can get the mirror image of my other pattern piece. So now we are going to cut the back pattern piece on the fold, and you want to treat this as if you were cutting stripes or something. So notice here that I have put a little mark for where the center back is, because you're going to have to flip that piece around. And now that I've completely traced it on one side, I have turned it on its mirror side, and now I'm going to trace it onto the right side as well. Once you have completed cutting out your fabric pieces, go ahead and stay stitch the neckline on the front pieces and on the back pattern piece as well. With right sides facing, go ahead and attach your front piece to your back bodice piece at the shoulder on each side. I do recommend using Wonder Clips for this. I personally like to use Wonder Clips when pinning fur. That way I don't lose any pins in the fur. But if you don't have Wonder Clips, pins work just fine. So fun fact about sewing with fur, you should use a zigzag stitch. There is something to be said about the way the fur looks between the zigzag stitches that actually makes it look more authentic and more natural and holds up a lot better than doing a straight stitch on fur. So that is always my recommendation. So now we are going to attach our collar. Notice that I didn't actually clip in the notches. I simply just marked them. So go ahead and match up however you marked your notches, whether that was triangles or little snips, and make sure that it lines up to the notches around the neckline. That small dot that you see should honestly line up with the seam line, and then your edges should line up as well on the ends. Take this to your sewing machine and sew it at 5/8 with a zigzag stitch. If this isn't your first sew along with me, then you know that I always love to start my collar sewing at the center back seam. That way, if there's any sort of shifting or anything going on, then you can kind of mitigate it from the center point. But if this is your first time here, just go ahead and sew it from the center back down one side, and then I always flip my garment around and then start the center back going down the other side. Another pro tip, make sure that your entire garment is sitting on your sewing machine table, because fur carries a lot of weight, and so if you are concerned about the fur shifting while you're sewing it down, it's easier to handle it if it's all sitting on the table. Okay, and just like we did with the first side, go ahead and stay stitch your lining pieces along the neck edges on the front pattern piece and also on the back pattern piece too. Using a straight stitch, go ahead and stitch this down at 5/8 at the shoulder seams. Now we're going to work on attaching our outer vest piece to our lining pieces, and it starts at the collar. So just like how we attach the collar to the fur pieces, we're going to do the same thing to the lining pieces. Okay, so feel free to do any sort of additional notches to make your collar fit, but now we are going to work on connecting the lining to the fur. So you want to make sure that your lining piece and your fur piece match up perfectly, and you'll have to fold your collar just like how you saw me do here. Then you want to make sure that your seam allowance is facing up towards the collar. Take some wonder clips and some pins and secure it down. And basically where you see me put a pin or a wonder clip is where you are going to stitch. So just to recap, this is the back bottom edge, and then we are doing the front and the bottom edges of the front pieces. So at this point, we should not be sewing down any sort of sides or armholes. So now go ahead and clip in the curves of the front part of the vest on both sides. Turn your vest right side out and go ahead and do an understitching along the lining. Turn your vest inside out, and now right sides together, we are going to sew the armholes. Okay, so turn your vest right side out again, and we are going to understitch our armholes. Now, I know this seems very tedious and it may even feel difficult, but this step is important if you want your armholes to lay as flat as possible. So you may only get a good 2 or 3 inches into the armhole on each side, but it does help. Okay, so we've understitched the armholes and everything, and so now go ahead and open this up so where you see the lining, and you should have just the sides that are not stitched together. So what you're going to do is you're going to put your outer pieces together, and you're pretty much going to like sew in a circle. It's going to get to be very hard though once that opening gets more narrow and narrow. So by the end of this, you'll have probably like this much of an opening to slip stitch. But this is how we are going to close up our vest and finish it off. Okay, I would start sewing a little bit before you get to the fur. That way all of the fur is enclosed and all you have to do is slip stitch the lining pieces. Okay, so now you should have like a little, like I said, 2-inch opening on both sides, but your first side should be closed in. So now you can slip stitch this and add a little button at the top of the collar to make it closed, like how the model has right here. And then you're all set. All right, you guys, thank you so much for watching that video. Now, if you like this video and you want to see more from me, don't forget to hit that like button, comment, and subscribe below. And if you're not following me already, you can follow me at Raven Maureen on TikTok, Instagram, and Threads. See y'all next time. Bye.